Join me as I take on the challenge of living like Alaric the fearless barbarian for a whole day. Can I handle the wildlife? Close your eyes and imagine a world unraveling at its seams. It's the 4th century CE in the Roman Empire. Once the shining beacon of civilization is struggling to maintain control. Its territories are vast, its armies overstretched, and its leadership fractured. At the same time, the fringes of the empire are teeming with restless tribes, people who have been both feared and underestimated by the Romans for centuries. Among these tribes are the Goths, a displaced and desperate people pushed to the brink by Roman exploitation and broken promises. In the midst of this turmoil, one man emerges, Alaric, born into chaos, shaped by war, and destined to challenge the might of Rome. Alaric's journey is a story of ambition, strategy, and unyielding determination. This is his tale, the rise and fall of the man who sacked the eternal city, the boy who dreamed of power. Alaric was born into a noble family of the Visigoths, a subgroup of the larger Gothic people. His early life was spent on the borderlands of the Roman Empire, a dangerous region where his people lived as ferocity, semi-autonomous allies of Rome. The Goths fought in Rome's armies and paid taxes, but in return, they were treated with contempt, denied land, and often left to starve. Young Alaric grew up watching his people suffer. He saw Roman officials make promises and break them, feeding resentment among the Gothic tribes. He heard tales of Rome's once unstoppable legions, but also witnessed their weaknesses. This upbringing gave Alaric a unique perspective. He respected Rome's power but saw opportunities in its decline. By the time he was a young man, Alaric had already proven himself a capable warrior. But more than his strength, it was his intellect that set him apart. He understood that brute force alone wouldn't bring his people the respect and security they craved. For that, they needed a leader with a vision. Learning from the enemy. Alaric's first taste of leadership came not against Rome, but within it. As a commander under Emperor Theodosius I, Alaric fought alongside Roman troops against other barbarian groups and internal usurpers. He learned Roman tactics, observed their chain of command, and gained first-hand knowledge of their strengths and vulnerabilities. But Alaric's loyalty to Rome was tested early. After Theodosius's death in 395 CE, the empire split into two halves, east and west. The Visigoths, now under Alaric's leadership, were stationed in the Balkans and had been promised land and food for their service. The Romans reneged on this agreement, leaving the Goths to starve. Alaric's disillusionment with Rome became complete. He was no longer content to serve as a pawn in their game. If Rome would not honor its promises, Alaric would take what his people needed by force. The raids begin. Alaric was declared king of the Visigoths in 395 CE, and his first acts as leader were bold. He led his people on raids across Roman territory in the Balkans, pillaging towns and fortresses to secure food and resources. The raids weren't just about survival, they were a statement. Alaric was showing both Rome and his own people that the Visigoths were no longer subservient. But Alaric's ambitions extended beyond looting. He sought a permanent place for his people, a homeland where they could thrive without fear of Roman betrayal. For that, he needed leverage, and there was no greater leverage than the city of Rome itself. The road to Rome. By the early 400s, the Western Roman Empire was crumbling. Emperor Honorius ruled from the fortified city of Ravenna, far from the troubles plaguing his empire. His generals were corrupt, his armies underpaid, and his administration fractured. Alaric saw his opportunity. In 408 CE, Alaric marched his forces into Italy. His army, composed of seasoned warriors and desperate refugees, moved swiftly, taking Roman cities and cutting off vital supply lines. The Romans were unprepared for the speed and ferocity of the Visigoths. Alaric reached the gates of Rome and laid siege to the city. The Eternal City, which had not been sacked in over 800 years, now faced the unthinkable. The Siege of Rome. The siege was a psychological battle as much as a physical one. Inside Rome, panic set in as food supplies dwindled and disease spread. The Roman Senate, desperate to save their city, negotiated with Alaric. They offered him gold, silver, and promises of land for his people. Alaric accepted the payment but remained unsatisfied. He wanted more than wealth. He wanted security and recognition for his people. Rome, however, was unwilling to concede such terms, and Alaric knew that as long as the empire underestimated him, his people's future was uncertain. In 410 CE, after a series of failed negotiations, Alaric made his boldest move yet. On a moonlit night, one of Rome's gates was opened. Some say by disgruntled slaves, others by traitors. The Visigoths poured into the city. The sack of Rome. For 3 days, Alaric's forces occupied Rome. The city was looted, its treasures taken, and its citizens left in terror. But this was no mindless rampage. Alaric ordered his troops to spare churches and religious figures, showing a level of discipline that surprised even his enemies. The sack of Rome sent shockwaves across the ancient world. It marked the first time in centuries that the city had fallen to a foreign army. To the Romans, it was the ultimate humiliation, a sign that their empire's days were numbered. The fall of Alaric. Despite his victory, Alaric's story did not end in triumph. After the sack, he turned his attention to North Africa, hoping to establish a Gothic kingdom in its fertile lands. But his plans were thwarted by a sudden storm that destroyed his fleet. Not long after, in 410 CE, Alaric fell ill and died. His followers, loyal to the end, buried him in a secret grave beneath a riverbed, diverting the water to hide the location. According to legend, those who performed the burial were killed to keep the secret safe. Alaric's life was one of ambition, leadership, and unparalleled determination. He lived in a time when the world was shifting, a moment when the mighty Roman Empire teetered on the brink of collapse. In many ways, Alaric was a catalyst for that change. His actions forced Rome to confront its weaknesses and made clear that its days as an unchallenged superpower were over. The sack of Rome in 410 CE was not merely a military victory. It was a profound psychological blow. To Romans, their city was the eternal heart of the empire, a place that symbolized power, culture, and civilization itself. The fact that it could fall to a barbarian was unthinkable, and yet it did. This event shattered the illusion of Roman invincibility and paved the way for other groups to challenge the empire in the years to come. For the Visigoths, the sack of Rome was a triumph and a testament to Alaric's vision. He had taken a displaced, fragmented people and given them a sense of purpose and unity. Under his leadership, the Visigoths were no longer seen as mere vassals or mercenaries, but as a formidable force that demanded respect. While Alaric did not live to see his people settle in the lands he envisioned, his efforts laid the groundwork for the eventual establishment of the Visigothic kingdom in what is now Spain. Alaric's death, shrouded in mystery, only adds to his legend. The story of his burial beneath a river, with the laborers executed to keep the site secret, speaks to the reverence his followers held for him. It is as if even in death, Alaric sought to remain elusive, a leader who defied not only Rome but also the constraints of mortality. To this day, his grave has never been found, fueling speculation and intrigue about his final resting place. But Alaric's legacy extends beyond his immediate achievements. He represents a turning point in history, the moment when the balance of power began to shift from the old world of Rome to the new powers that would shape Europe for centuries. His story is not one of senseless destruction but of resilience and ambition, a leader who sought justice and security for his people in a time of great upheaval. Alaric's rise and fall also offer lessons that resonate even today. His leadership was defined by his ability to adapt, to recognize opportunities, and to unite his people under a shared vision. He was a man who stood firm in the face of overwhelming odds and refused to accept the status quo. For historians, Alaric is a figure of endless fascination, embodying the complexities of his era. Was he a barbarian destroyer, as Roman accounts often portrayed him, or was he a visionary leader who sought to reshape the world? Perhaps he was both, a man who lived in the gray areas of history, where greatness and destruction often go hand in hand. For the rest of us, Alaric's story is a reminder of the inevitability of change. Empires rise and fall, but the human spirit, driven by ambition and resilience, endures. Alaric's name may be centuries old, but his story remains as relevant as ever, a testament to the enduring power of leadership, vision, and the will to fight for a better future. In the grand tapestry of history, Alaric is not merely a thread but a bold stroke, one that altered the course of an entire civilization. His life and legacy continue to inspire and challenge us, inviting us to see history not just as a series of events, but as a reflection of the timeless struggles and aspirations that define humanity.